I'm Neil Tunbridge. I'm one half of a duo, and if you want to see the other half, you're going to have to come back tomorrow, unfortunately. But I'm going to be talking through the development and evolution of the e-exporting program. So for those of you that were lucky enough to come to the autumn fair in September last year, we launched this program. This is the e-exporting program. It's been launched by UKTI, so it's a digital export strategy for the UK retail industry. And I'm here just to tell you a little bit more about what we've achieved since autumn, where the program's going, who it's engaged with, who it's planning to engage with over the next 6 to 9 months. And if you've got any questions, then stick your hand up. We've got a mic at the back there somewhere. Probably best to have questions left to the end, but obviously if it's really pressing, then stick your hand up and we can answer it. So the first place to start probably, and most useful, is, well, why on earth are we doing this program? It's a response to industry. So as I mentioned, it's a digital export strategy, been designed to help the UK retail industry reach new customers overseas, and it's being done so through digital channels. The response has come about from the fact that there are more and more people around the world searching for UK brands than there are any other products and retailers in any other part of the world. So if you look at stats from Google, there's a 46% rise year on year of searches for UK brands, which is more than any other country in the world. And they're doing these searches through connected devices. What do I mean by connected devices? Who's got a smartphone on them? Anyone? Everyone, right. So they're doing these searches through connected devices. And that's when we start talking about the connected consumer. So if you look at the timeline here of some of the sort of major pieces of the e-commerce jigsaw that have come and gone. July 94, eBay launched. March 2000, first smartphone launched. 2004, 3 billion internet-enabled consumers all around the world. So what we're talking about then is the Internet of Things and the connected consumers. It's about people on mobile devices and people having many, many connected mobile devices in their household. And it's about how brands are now communicating with these customers and about how consumers or customers are engaging and absorbing and consuming brands and products. Internet of Things is a term that you'll hear a lot about, and no one really understands too much about where it's going to go. Is my fridge going to be sending me SMSs, and is my bed going to be telling me to wake up? Well, we're not quite sure where that's going to go. But for the time being, what we do know is that the connected consumer around the world is typically using a smartphone to access any product and any brand that they wish, typically through and certainly this is true in Asia, through digital marketplace platforms. And more on that in a bit. So when we start talking about the connected consumer, I realise there's quite a lot of text on this slide, and it's not being put up there so that you can read absolutely everything. But the key thing to look at is that light green triangle, which is the percentage of the pie of those people that are mobile enabled in Asia. And you don't need the glasses to read the thing at the top. So 46% of all the world's connected consumers are in Asia. When I said this program was about a response to industry, that response to industry is focused on around UKTI being able to deliver UK SMEs, brands and products to the key areas of the world that are looking for UK brands. They want to purchase UK branded product. And when we come to another slide later on, what we're trying to do is investigate the new key metrics of trying to understand where the next emerging market is coming from. So one of the sort of stats to look at that wraps itself around these connected consumers is also how connected consumers are absorbing media, how they're absorbing social media, and how they're consuming brands. So I just spent 10 years in the Middle East. I was at a digital marketplace platform for 2 years called Tajuri. It's a multi-category website. We were in touch with Google for quite a long time prior to launching the site to try and understand how Middle East consumers are absorbing brands, how they're consuming data, and how they're consuming media. So any prizes for anyone that can guess what country in the world watches the most YouTube videos per capita? Anyone? So Saudi Arabia. A lot of people in Saudi sat around watching YouTube all day long. So more than the UK, more than Asia, more than South America, all these new emerging economies that people are looking at and sort of hotbeds of quickly growing population, Middle East is absorbing more YouTube social media content than anyone else in the world, and particularly Saudi Arabia. So these were some of the key steps that when I was marketplace side, we were trying to look at and think, actually, how do we start talking and communicating to these people? And they were absorbing it through and using it through digital connected devices. That's iPads at home, that's smartphones at work. So if greater connectivity, as I said there at the top of the slide, if greater connectivity is driving incremental consumer spending, how are they doing that, and what are we doing about it as an industry and as UKTI? Well, we're looking at some of the key metrics. We're looking at search, we're looking at social, we're looking at low market entry costs, and we're looking at how we take UK industry and SMEs into new markets in a low cost, low friction, sort of low market entry way. If we were stood here 15 years ago, I'd have been telling you to go to a new market by doing a bit of a trip into market, trying to understand what the consumers were doing, maybe looking at some of the malls, investing in some real estate through a JV, setting up a warehouse, fitting out the store, hiring some staff. All of that takes a very long time. It's quite expensive, and you still have really no idea who the consumers are and whether they want to consume your brand. This particular piece of work that we're doing through UKTI is low cost, light touch, and you can understand data that's coming out of marketplaces from all around the world for free. So you can understand what customers in Japan are searching for UK brands. You can understand what customers in Brazil are searching for, what device they're doing it on, and what social media platform they're using. So that's quite a lot about what UKTI think, and we're not really thought leaders in this space. We're just kind of responding to what industry wants and where industry is going. This quote came out at the end of last year. This is the chief executive of Lloyds Bank, and he's telling SMEs to think beyond Europe, to think beyond some of the markets you know already. So when we launched this program back in August, we were talking about South Korea. They've got 5G mobile connectivity across 80% of their population. We're talking about China, which has got 350 million connected consumers online every single day. We were talking about South America, which is sort of a key emerging market that everyone's heard of. But we were talking about these markets because of the volume of connected and digitally connecting consumers. The response from industry was, yeah, but all we really want is a Facebook page in France. Actually, what industry is saying now, you need to look beyond some of those traditional borders. It's more than selling a few jeans into Germany, and it's more than selling a few belts into France. It's about looking where the key dense population areas are around the world that are searching for UK brands, and they're doing it in a digitally native way. And that's what this response, that's why when I say this program is a response to industry, that's what we're talking about. It's about understanding the inherent pent-up demand for UK products. And it's really releasing that pent-up demand by demonstrating opportunity through these digital marketplaces. Excuse me. Earlier on, when I said we were looking at population, some key areas of sort of population density around the world, that's a bit of a kind of 1993 way of looking at where do I go in terms of new markets. You'd look at GDP, GDP per capita, household discretionary income, what percentage of the population live in urban and rural cities, tier 1, tier 2 cities. Actually, when it comes to digital, when it comes to digital exports, all of that can go out the window. What we need to be looking at is internet connectivity, 4G mobile penetration, smartphone penetration, what payment solutions are inherent in a particular country. So in the Middle East, 70% of all internet payments through e-commerce channels are done through cash on delivery. That's someone rocking up at your door with 3 pairs of jeans and you handing over some cash to them, 9 times out of 10 after you've gone away and tried them on. And as I say, mobile phone ownership as well. So we're not only looking at new markets and trying to understand the ways in which people are absorbing brands, but we're looking at the new ways to measure what that pent-up demand will look like and where it's coming from. Excuse me, lost my voice earlier in the week. So we've also continually talked about a new export model as well. And what does that mean? Well, new export model for us is one that's data-led. And what does that mean? Well, UKTI are negotiating on behalf of industry, which is also a bit of a first. We're talking to digital marketplaces all around the world, and from our perspective, we know that there are 450 B2C marketplaces all around the world. We're understanding the inherent pent-up demand in each of those countries, and we're taking data from those marketplaces and getting those marketplaces to demonstrate what that pent-up demand looks like. Is it 25-year-old females that are searching for UK brands on their smartphone whilst they're on a coffee break at work? It's that kind of data. And it's that kind of data, actually, the marketplaces are willing to share with us because they can see the ability of UKTI and how it's communicating across the rest of the UK industry. This demand, as I said, is being fueled by search and social media. So again, it's throwing out the traditional ways of looking at and measuring demand within a different country. So when we talk about a new export model, what we're actually talking about is a data-led export model. Low cost, light touch, going into a market where you inherently understand your customers already because you've got the data from the digital marketplaces telling you what they're doing already. And it also means that we're trying to digitize the traditional channels. That's turning on the digital aspect of what a physical store now needs to look like. It also means that the traditional distribution model of retail is being challenged. So as I mentioned earlier on, traditionally you've gone into a new market, you'd have done so with a JV, you'd have sold some wholesale stock into a client into, I'll make it up, into Brazil. They'd have done pretty much what they wanted with your product. They'd have marked it down whenever they liked to. And you didn't really have any control over your brand or over your product. Well, digital exports are kind of turning that methodology on its head. As I keep saying, it's low cost, it's light touch, but it's also the first port of call now that we're recommending retailers of how to go into a new country. You can do this from the UK. You can do it through distribution channels that are inherently present. Thank you very much. You can do it through distribution and warehousing solutions that are here within the UK as well. Most marketplaces that we're talking to in China and Japan and South Korea have physical warehouse and logistics functions on the ground in the UK. So as a retailer, you've got export sales coming out of your warehouse-based stock, and it's going into a warehouse and into a supply chain solution that starts in the UK. Excuse me. We're also trying to understand, in a given market, what the key points of contact are and what the key points of being able to understand how to evolve your brand in that market. So it's not just about standing up new commercial ideas on a food and drink platform in China or on Amazon in Japan or on Mercado Libre in Mexico. So it's about understanding the different channels that exist there as well. So this offer from UKTI is an entirely well-rounded proposition. So by not only putting you onto a marketplace, we're giving you the social media feeds in that particular country. We're giving you the logistics solutions in that country. We're giving you translators in that country, payment gateway providers, a whole sort of well-rounded construct. We're not sort of just chucking you into a new market and letting you do it on your own. So what does that mean in terms of a global view? So as earlier on I mentioned, it's about the globally connected consumer, where UKTI are also then looking at the globally connected consumer through the eyes of the marketplaces around the world. Don't spill those coffees, will you? So we're intimately aware of the marketplaces that exist. We've got a finger in the air estimate of 450 B2C marketplaces around the world. We know there are over 3 billion connecting consumers around the world. And from a data-led perspective, we also know those consumers, certainly those in Asia and South America, are hunting for UK SMEs and UK brands. I mentioned earlier on, Google stats suggest that there's close to a 50% increase year on year for the last 3 years of UK brands being searched on their Google platforms around the world. And that's then not including sort of homegrown search platforms like Yandex in Russia or Naver or Line in Korea and some of the other Asian markets as well. As far as UKTI is concerned, yes, this is the global proposition, but this is also a sector-led proposition as well. And that means we're concentrating on the key 7 e-commerce sectors that are proven to exist from reports from Google and McKinsey. That's fashion accessories, shoes, sports, kids, and home and garden. So when you start looking at 450 marketplaces around the world with 3 billion consumers across 7 sectors, how good's anyone's maths to work out what that means in terms of the commercial proposition that we can stand up around the world? I think there's too many noughts on there for us to try and justify that. But essentially what it means is we can be very specific about the brands that we take overseas. We've got the data coming from the marketplaces telling us what people are doing on the social media platforms. We've got the data coming from the search platforms telling us the top key search terms in each particular market. And then we've got data from the actual marketplaces saying, these are the key brands that are trading on the site in each sector, and we can do some quite detailed peer group analysis. So instead of just being able to, like you would have done 15 years ago, go into a new market rather whimsically, we can actually say that 25 to 28-year-old Japanese female shoppers want shoes that are made from UK, made in the UK, and are sort of made in GB. We can be very specific about the brands and the SMEs that we export. Again, something very different to how traditionally you would have got into new markets. Well, commercially, what does this mean then? Well, we've got estimates that are reasonably accurate about if you're going into a new market through digital channels, you're effectively saving yourself 35% of your cost of sales going into a new market. So when I say this is low cost, light touch, what that really means is that you've got a significant gain on your bottom line of sales going into new markets through digital channels. When you look at that as a sort of overall and well-rounded construct, earlier on I mentioned there'll be assistance of search and social and supply chain and all of the necessary means that we offer in each particular market for SMEs, and then wrapped around that, there's often a supply chain and warehousing solution in the UK. It's an incredibly easy way for UK retailers to start understanding their customers around the world and in what markets. Excuse the rather crude terminology and the crude sort of graphic. I'm not very good on PowerPoint, but effectively what we're trying to do then is we can see the demand around the world because we've got all these wonderful data feeds that are coming from all the different search social marketplaces, and effectively UKTI, through its means of communication in the UK, has its arms wrapped around the supply. So UKTI is through this e-exporting program, melding supply and demand, and effectively what that means is there's opportunity around the world. UKTI is the enabling piece, and what we're trying to demonstrate then, it's easy for UK companies to grow and go overseas. I won't dwell on this slide too much. There's a lot of kind of UKTI speak in there, which can get a little bit boring, but effectively there's 6 key pillars that this program is constructed of. I've talked to some of you already that are sort of around this auditorium, around the e-expertise bank. That's effectively an industry pro bono service that we offer. That's industry talking to industry, and it's industry experts helping UK retailers understand whatever little lumps and bumps they might need to understand when they go into new markets. We have digital advisors, of which I am one. So we are typically private sector industry experts with a strong background in e-commerce or digital sort of natives. One of my colleagues who's speaking on the UKTI stand later on, she's from our friends over there at Alibaba. We've got ex-eBay, we've got ex-Amazon. As I say, I'm from ex-Middle East. I was 2 years at a platform there. So we're hiring digital natives to be able to not only talk about what this e-exporting program is, but be able to intimately help you as an SME or as a retailer understand what challenges you have in each new market. Everything has a rather clunky title within the government, but we've got something called the e-marketplace navigator. Effectively, that's a database that no one else around the world, we believe, no one else around the world has their hands on. It's the commercial and operational constructs of all those 450 B2C marketplaces. We know their operating procedure and financial sort of compliances that as a retailer you need to be aware of. That's a searchable database that we will then be pushing out to industry. So if you're a crockery manufacturer based in Stoke, we can tell you which particular marketplaces in Japan can offer you a PayPal service and what you might need to be aware of as a retailer looking to go into that market. It can be drilled down to very, very detailed, and as I say, we believe that no one else around the world has that yet. We're also then wrapping around search data, social data, and marketplace data onto that to become an easy navigatable tool for not only our digital advisors that are all across the UK, but for industry as well. We've obviously got the agreements with the marketplaces. I keep talking about them. There are 450 around the world, and we're gradually working our way through them. And as I say, we're typically looking at the 7 key e-commerce sectors around the world. So 7 times 450 is a number that my mind can't work out quite yet, but a lot of commercial opportunities over the next 3 years that industry can be pushed towards. And we'll also be increasing our social media presence around this as well. So we're trying to live and breathe what we're telling and what we're helping UK industry understand. So very quickly then, when I mentioned earlier on opportunity, enablement and advice, this is the first slide, and hopefully you'll recognise some of those things on there. The opportunity then is your Yo Sushi conveyor belt. So this is UKTI offering up as commercial opportunity propositions on digital marketplaces around the world, and that would be typically, as I mentioned earlier on, sector-led. So it could be any one of those 7 key e-commerce sectors. It might be fashion, might be shoes, it might be sports, it might be children's wear. It would be done so in a key marketplace around the world. That might be Mercado Libre in South America. That might be Amazon in Japan. It might be Tmall in China. It might be the Iconic in Australia. But there'd be a sector-led, geographic-led scalable opportunity that you will have a full visibility of what that means for you as a retailer, as a brand, as an SME, how you engage with that program, and what opportunity exists for you on that particular program. So that's the opportunity. Some of you here might recognise the Haynes Manual. So the Haynes Manual is UKTI. That's us having negotiated the commercial terms of that opportunity. It's producing enough collateral that best informs you as industry to help you understand that commercial proposition. Losing my voice again. It's offering up the commercial terms of that particular opportunity. So that might be, so to give you an example, on Mercado Libre, which is the biggest retailer in South America, it's a pure play site, and it's the 12th most used e-commerce platform in the world. We've negotiated a 6-month free trading period for all retailers from the UK that use this exporting program and list on Mercado Libre. So that's not an offer you'll be able to get anywhere else from the UK. But what this Haynes Manual is doing is offering up all of the sort of guidance that you would need to realise this commercial opportunity. And then we've also got what we call the digital diagnostic. So this is opportunity, this is enablement, and this is kind of the growth period as well. So we've got the experts that are part of our e-expertise advisory bank. They are there to offer you guidance, advice, solutions, and answer any problems. And that's a pro bono service that we offer up as UKTI. And this is industry talking to industry. Also helps you understand what operational and commercial constructs you might need to put in place in a particular given market, whether there might be search and pay gates that you need to talk to, whether there might be SEO companies or search companies you need to talk to, or whether there might be translation companies or IP lawyers that you need in a given country as well. Excuse me. So all of these particular sort of pieces of the jigsaw are also provided by UKTI as well. Hopefully you can read some of that text on here, but we've just negotiated a commercial construct for Amazon Japan. So some of you may be aware, to trade digitally in Japan, you need to have a physical presence, and you also need to have a bank account. Amazon Japan have taken it upon themselves, through some negotiation with UKTI, to offer us a solution to both those problems. UK retailers that are utilising this e-expertise, this e-exporting program, can do so through UKTI, and Amazon Japan will take it upon themselves to be your local presence in market, and they will also set up a local bank account for you. And again, that's something that's only offered to retailers that are using the UKTI e-exporting program. I don't need to necessarily read through all the text there verbatim. You can read that for yourself. But in effect, what we tried to do is understand the inherent demand within the Japanese market for UK products and brands. For those of you that may not be aware also, Japan's a big home and garden market for demand. So we're just about to put Spear & Jackson onto Amazon Japan, something the first time they've ever traded in Japan. So we're understanding that particular demand, and we can realise and fulfil that demand with the supply of UK SMEs by going into that market through this programme. So the three constructs of the programme that we're helping retailers understand is to be prepared, and we will help you be prepared by all of the kind of nuts and bolts. It's that Haynes Manual, it's understanding the search, and it's understanding the data, and it's helping you understand the commercial proposition on each particular marketplace. And we will do that through our head office, which is where I work, and through our trade advisor network, 340 trade advisors throughout the UK. And we'll also give you access into that tool, that e-navigator tool as well, something that is only available at the moment through UKTI. It's also about then understanding the sort of more well-rounded proposition of this offer. So what advice might you need on VAT or legal or IP protection or payment solutions or search or translation? So the broader piece of the awareness that you would need to have as an SME going into a new market. And then by preparing you and making you aware, we're helping you understand the opportunity that exists there by negotiating on your behalf with all of these marketplaces around the world. So as an SME, it's a real low-cost, sort of words it's a bit of a mantra, low-cost, light-touch way of realising new opportunity and going into new markets. I'll leave you with this slide, because I don't think I need to necessarily read what's on the slide, and then open up the floor to any questions. What we're doing next? Well, we're going into There's 4 commercial opportunities in China. We're looking at Tmall, Show.com, JD, and Shangpin. We've signed MOUs with all of those marketplaces. We're about to go live with Mercado Libre, the site that I mentioned earlier on. So that's the biggest retailer in South America. They operate across 13 markets. That's 12 markets in South America plus Portugal because of the ease of language. That will be going live in 3rd week of February, and also another second tranche of retailers will be going on there in March. So that's 70 retailers we'll be taking into South American markets in back end of Q1. We've got a flash sale site opportunity in the Middle East called Marca VIP. They're looking at fashion and fashion accessories. So that also demonstrates to you that there's a full price offering, there's a flash sale offering, there's discount offering through the likes of Tmall as well in China, and also giving you a geographic scope of the global reach across the world that we've got happening as well. There's also significant opportunities coming up in Central and Eastern Europe, and also some other European countries as well through eBay, Amazon, and Allegro, which is owned by the Naspers Group in South America, in South Africa.